Dear friends, welcome to tutorial 3 of Microsoft Excel. Today we will learn SumIF, SumIFS, Count, CountA, CountIF and CountIFS functions in Microsoft Excel. These are the other few common functions used while doing Microsoft Excel-based analysis of large volume of data. First we will look at SumIF and SumIFS. If we want to calculate conditional sum of the provided numbers in the available data, we use these functions. If there is a one criterion for conditional sum, we use SumIF, otherwise we use SumIFS. In tutorial 2, we have learned AverageIf and AverageIFS. Functions SumIF and SumIFS are performed in Excel using the exactly same methodology as we followed for AverageIf and AverageIFS. For better understanding, I recommend you to please go through tutorial 2 once. For ease of understanding, we will use same table of data which we used in tutorial 2 for learning AverageIf and AverageIFS in Excel. Let's start with SumIF. A blank table on the right hand side is provided to learn SumIF. Likewise we learnt in AverageIf function. Our first task is to calculate total gross revenue of only those departments which have achieved it more than $50,000. Second task is to calculate the total gross revenue of only those departments which have cost of goods more than or equal to $20,000. In cell K8, we put an equals sign and type SumIF and press a tab button on keyboard. Excel will ask you to enter the array or a range of cells to apply the criteria and a comma sign, then the criteria followed by a comma sign and array or a range of cells for which the sum is to be calculated. If the range to apply the criteria and the range for which the sum is to be calculated are same, we just have to select range of cells to apply the criteria and then the criteria. In our first task, since the range to apply the criteria and the range for which the sum is to be calculated are same, that is gross revenues, we select the array D8 to D19 as criteria range followed by a comma. In the criteria, we will open a double quote, insert the greater than sign on keyboard and close the double quote and insert and sign and select the cell J8 to provide reference to the criteria cell. Once we press the enter button, Excel will calculate the sum of gross revenue of only those departments which achieved it greater than $50,000. As explained in tutorial 2, we should note that while using functions such as AverageIf, AverageIFS, SumIF, SumIFS, CountIF, CountIFS etc. to refer to a cell rather than hard-coding the criteria, we open the double quote and type the criteria to apply, that is greater than, less than, equal to, greater than equal to or less than equal to, and close the double quote. Before providing the criteria cell reference we must put enter and sign and then give the criteria cell reference. In our second task, the range to apply the criteria and the range for which the sum is to be calculated are different. In cell K9, we put equals sign and type SumIF and press a tab button on the keyboard. Since our criteria is $value of cost of goods, we first select the array F8 to F19 as criteria range followed by a comma. In the criteria, we will open a double quote, insert the greater than and equals sign on keyboard and close the double quote. We insert and sign and select the cell J9 to provide reference to the criteria cell. Again, after inserting a comma we will select the cell D8 to D19 as reference for sum range. Once we press the enter button, Excel will calculate the sum of gross revenue of departments which have cost of goods greater than or equal to $20,000. Now we will learn sum with multiple criteria, which is SumIFS. In order to learn this, our task is to calculate the sum value of gross turnover of departments using two criteria. First criteria is to select departments which have cost of goods as percentage of gross revenue more than 30%, and second criteria is $value of cost of goods equal or more than $20,000. To calculate the sum using these two criteria, in cell K12, after putting an equals sign we will type SumIFS and press tab button on the keyboard. Excel will first request for reference of the array of cells for which the sum is to be calculated. In our case, it is gross revenue and hence we select cell D8 to D19. For our first criteria, which is cost of goods as percentage of gross revenue, we select E8 to E19 and after a comma sign, we open a double quote and enter greater than sign and close the double quote. After typing and sign, we will provide J12 as reference for criteria for array E8 to E19. After inserting another comma, for our second criteria, which is $value of cost of goods, we will select F8 to F19 as the criteria range. After a comma sign, we open a double quote and enter greater than equals sign and close the double quote. After putting an and sign, we will provide J13 as reference for second criteria for array F8 to F19. Once all the three aspects, the cell range to calculate the sum, the cell range and first criteria and the cell range and second criteria are entered, we will press enter on the keyboard. Excel will calculate the sum of gross turnover of those departments in ABC Corporation which have cost of goods as percentage of gross revenue more than 30% and absolute value of cost of goods equal to or more than $20,000. I hope this tutorial was helpful in learning SumIF and SumIFS function in Microsoft Excel. Our next function is count. This is a simple function which helps in simple counting of the cells with number. I again stress on the phrase count of cells with number. I have used the same table that we used to learn sum in tutorial 1. The gross revenue numbers of every department of ABC Corporation is presented in 3 different formats. Department 4, 7 and 9 are cost centers and hence do not earn any revenue. To represent their nil revenue, in table format 1 it is written as none, in table format 2 it is left blank and in table format 3 it is kept as numeric 0. We will now use the count function for each of these 3 table formats. In cell D20, after an equals sign, we type Q or count and press a tab key on the keyboard. Excel will ask you for value 1, value 2 and so on. In place of selecting the cells individually, we will provide a reference to the array of cells from D8 to D19. Now press the Enter button and follow the same process for table format 2 in cell E20 with reference to the array of cells from E8 to E19 and table format 3 in cell F20 with reference to the array of cells from F8 to F19. You will observe that the result obtained from the count function is 9 for table format 1 and 2 whereas it is 12 for table format 3. This is because 3 out of 12 cells in table format 1 and 2 are kept as text or blank. As I emphasized in the beginning, the count function in Microsoft Excel only counts the cells with numbers and not blanks or texts or others. To count the number of cells which are not blank, there is a separate function in Microsoft Excel which is CountA. Let's try CountA function for all the 3 table formats. In cell D21, after an equals sign, we type CountA and press a tab key on the keyboard. Like count function, Excel will ask you for value 1, value 2 and so on. In place of selecting the cells individually, we will again provide a reference to the array of cells from D8 to D19. Now we press the Enter button and repeat the same process for table format 2 in cell E21 with reference to the array of cells from E8 to E19 and table format 3 in cell F21 with reference to the array of cells from F8 to F19. You will observe that the result obtained from the CountA function is 12 for table format 1 and 3 whereas it is 9 for table format 2. This is because in table format 2 the gross revenue for departments 4, 7 and 9 are left blank. As I emphasized in the beginning, the CountA function in Microsoft Excel only counts non-empty cells. I hope this tutorial was helpful in learning count and CountA function in Microsoft Excel. Our next topic of this tutorial is to learn CountIF and CountIFS function. To learn these 2 functions, I have prepared a separate table on the right. As a first task, we have to count those departments which have achieved gross revenue of $50,000 or more. We will do this by using CountIF function in cell L8. After an equals sign we type CountIF and press the tab key on keyboard. Excel will request you to enter the range and the criteria. We will select array D8 to D19 as the range of values and after a comma sign we will open a double quote. As criteria, we will enter greater than sign on keyboard and close the double quote. After entering a and sign, we will provide reference to the criteria cell which is K8 and press enter key on the keyboard. Excel will calculate the number of departments in ABC Corporation which have achieved gross revenue of $50,000 or more. Now the second task is to count the number of departments in various gross revenue ranges. The table on the right side illustrates the range of $20,000 starting from $0 and going up to $120,000. Counting the number of departments, we will first go to cell K11 and after an equals sign, we type CountIFS followed by a tab key. Excel will request you for criteria range 1 and criteria 1, criteria range 2 and criteria 2 and so on. We will select D8 to D19 as our criteria range 1 and after a comma sign we open a double quote. As criteria we will enter greater than equal to sign and close the double quote and after a and sign provide reference to cell H11 which is $0. Similarly, we again select D8 to D19 as our criteria range 2 and after a comma sign we open a double quote. As criteria this time we will enter less than equal to sign and close the double quote and after a and sign provide reference to cell J11 which is $20,000. We press the enter button on the keyboard and we see the result as 3 which means, 3 departments have achieved a gross revenue in the range of $0 to $20,000 with both value included. If we manually check, departments 4, 7 and 9 are cost centers and are having 0 gross revenue. We repeat the same process for other ranges. For convenience of understanding, I have already used CountIFS function for the other ranges. We can learn about freezing cell references in Excel later to make this task easier by just copy-pasting the cell K11 in other cells K12 to K16. Once complete, we will find the count of department against each gross revenue range. As we see, the total is 12 departments which is first validity of accuracy of our formula. I hope this tutorial was helpful in learning CountIF and CountIFS function in Microsoft Excel. That's it for this tutorial. We wish you good luck for learning other functions in Microsoft Excel. If you liked the video, please do hit the like button for this video and also subscribe to our channel Management Gen to receive all the updates.